Okay, so welcome back to our series of Pinan Kata. Today we'll be looking at Pinan Godan, number 5. Today, as always, Sensei Kerry Moore, and there's Simon Sheridan. So Simon will be being beaten up later. So yeah, okay, enjoy. Thanks. Bye. Godan. Wait! 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 So what we're going to do now is break the kata down into different sections. Obviously, if your instructor doesn't want you doing these interpretations of Pinan Godan, then obviously stick to what he or she says. These are here just as suggestions, not as mandatory moves. Okay. Yeah? So this is obviously to educate the left and the right hand side. It's not necessarily that you have two people attacking you. What you're doing is you're practicing the one side and then you're practicing doing it the other side. After all, you have two brains. One here for the left, one here for the right. So make sure that you're practicing both sides. So when people are, when students are actually learning this for the first time, and I'm sure you've either done it yourself or you've come across students that find it difficult to sort of, which side have I got to put these arms? I.e., you get people, yeah, coming up like this instead of this side. So there's a little bit of an exercise that you can do with them, and I know it's helped a few of my students when they had difficulty. So the way to try and practice that is, if I can, yeah, start off with a jiu-jitsu move. Yeah, where you wait and you take, but instead of punching, I'm going to move my body this way and basically push Sensei Kerry out the way. And the momentum will bring my arms to this side. So practice it and you can actually feel that when you are pushing, that they will naturally swing round to this side. So if you do have a student that's finding it difficult, then, or you started to learn Pinan Godan and you have difficulty memorising which side it's got to go, then try their exercise and it does help. Okay, so next portion, yeah, next combination. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah? That is one variation. I'm not a fan of judoki. So 1, 2, the other side. 3, and punch. So you're using both hands to do a separate technique. So 1, 2, this one, down, punch. So there's two variations. You can practice one side and then the other side. Okay, then obviously some Wado instruct using coming down here, or some variations of karate use coming down. So if we can demonstrate that. It's always good to practice. Don't just think there's one way of doing it, but basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So obviously you are gripping, rolling, suri, zuki. Yeah, so that combination there you can do 3 ways. Or if you decide that you want to do maigeri, punch, 2 blocks. Why use 2 blocks when you can use 1? So you're practicing one hand, then the other hand. So try and use the 2 variations. Then if you want to use the 3rd one for the lock, strike, there's lots of things for you to practice there. All different variations. Okay, so next combination or next portion is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see so many people from here doing a circular motion. If you've tried that with a person, every time I've tried it like that, it just does not work. I'll try and make an example of it or do an example of why. So here, grabbing, if I'm trying to move around, and I am trying to pull around, I haven't got my balance and I haven't done the break on sensei-keri. So the way is to drop the elbow, and I want to move my center so that keri center can come through easy. So here. Now he's got a path. Now I do a nai hanch move. Then turn. If he's still got the arm, come back and pull. While he's going back, MP, Yuraken, uppercut. So what we're trying to do is make the travel easy for sensei-keri. Therefore, I'm not fighting him. I drop my elbow, not lift it. I drop. Then he's got a clear path. And around. Come back. Pull. Through. MP. Yuraken. Uppercut. So the next portion we're going to talk about and obviously practice with you is the jump. So I'll have to apologise. My jump is not as good as it used to be. So please bear with me on that. But if I start off here, see so many people do this. And they're trying to jump from here, and they can't. It's very awkward. After all, if you left your back where it is and stood up, this is how your posture would be. Yeah, you cannot jump from there. So, look through. Body's turned. I've put my hip in. Turn. Then I can move my body weight. Then I can do the jump. And in. So the jump is the preparation for the jump. Your body posture is important, else you're not going to be able to do the jump. Yeah. So again, if I've here, looks nice, but it's difficult to jump. Turn. So look through. So when you do chinto, any kata like that, then look through. Even kushanku, yeah? Get your body to look through. Get your body positioned correct. Okay, so when you come to actually do the jump, you need a rationale why you're actually doing the jump. Yeah. So how it was explained to me was, if you've got armor on, that's great from front. But where you have to bend your knee or bend your arms or neck, then those are the vulnerable places. So it's no good cutting the muscle. Muscle will still work. But if you cut the tendon, then the muscle's got no anchorage point. So even if it's trying to bend your arm or walk or anything like that, you can't because it's not got the attachment. So they were trying to cut behind your knee. Yeah. Fortunately, I'm not allowing Sensei Kerry to use a katana. He would love to, but I'm not allowing that. So when you're practicing, just try and use a belt. Yeah. So let's hope my jump is good enough. So when you come to do the judoyuki, not really a judoyuki. Can you come around, Sensei? So when the maigeri comes in, you want to be punching to the groin. Yeah, and suryuki. Yeah, the other one to the femoral. So try not to take a kick with judoyuki. Try and use it as a deflection. Yeah. For years I did this, more of a kakushiashi coming down. But the kata is not that. Kata is here, with the knees out. The reason why I did kakushiashi was basically a triangulation here. So everything was locked in, down. So I couldn't understand why this. But this is a lot more subtle. And also you triangulated at the back. I'd never thought about getting the stability from the back. Always thought from the front. But if somebody's coming at you with a kick, really you want something to prop you up from the back. So this works. Jump, land, out, before you go. Wish. So final moves. 1, 2, 3. So, Sensei Kerry and Simon. Right. Right. Right, so again, just about the posture at the end. Similar to before the jump. So, here, look through. Don't worry about this one trying to get round here. Yeah? If you're taught that there's a punch coming behind here and blocking here, then you know your posture again. It's looking like this. So just have this as strike or your fight from your fighting stance. Obviously higher up for Jodan. So make sure don't be overstressed by trying to get this right the way around the back. Yeah, and then use your hip to pull up. Relax the arms through. And again, look through, not stretching your back out, but look through it. And again, don't be stressed about this arm. Let it go where it needs to go. Obviously not round here, but covering your torso, covering your head. Yeah? Be very careful of that posture. Look through. Not arching your back. Wish. Okay, so students always, some of them always suffer with trying to get your body movement and your feet working together to give you the correct direction. A lot of the move is with your hip, not trying to haul your leg up. So when you take this position here, this should be a natural foot position, not sticking out here. And the way to find that natural position is, as I know, your hip is a ball and socket. So when you lift your foot to the side, if you go further round, start lifting it, your foot, your leg starts to rotate around the joint. So it's not there, that's not natural. As you lift, your foot will turn to a natural position. Not straight. So just as long as you lift, drop, that's the natural direction. Because it's your hip that's positioning it. Not an artificial, it must be there. No, just the natural position. So again, try and do it with your hip and let this foot move to accommodate it. The worst thing you can do is to leave it there, because this will tear. It's not good for your knees. So again, with your hip, let this one just naturally come round. If you want to, shizentai, you can use that. So again, use your hip, use your rotation, let this one free up. When you come up, stand up, use your leg. Almost keisoku. Then, not have your foot across here, because then you've got to go over the top of it. But leave it, give it the direction. Keisoku. Give it the direction so as it can go through. And again, natural position, not pointing straight. And back. So try and let your body, your foot, and the back foot work in unison. Not separate items, else you're going to damage your knee, you're going to damage your joint. You're going to end up in the wrong posture. Be careful.
So this is the key point section of the video. There are some key points that are specific to Godan from what I've seen and researched so far. There are others that apply to all the katas that we've done so far. By the time you got to Godan, you should have several years of practicing. So some of the more advanced sort of key point principles you should be able to deal with now. Maybe not when you're first starting and learning Pinan Nidan. So the first key point, what I can see of Godan, is it's the kata so far that has the most potential for joint locks and throws. The early ones are more sort of karate block punch based. But if you take a slightly different view of things, this one seems to have a lot of opportunity and a lot of setups for throwing and joint locking. So in the variation section of the video, we'll try and demonstrate some of those potential joint lock or throw type movements. And again, it may just sort of change your view of the kata and how you approach your training. The second key point is directions. Generally, the previous katas have been 8 directions, back, front, left, right, to the 4 diagonals. But this one is now introduced up and down. So for any kata or any sort of concept of kata, there's generally 10 directions. And this is the first time you see it with the jump and then the landing. So this is like something new that's appeared, and it's logical this is the place where it will be, because this is the last in this series. So that's a new and interesting concept. The other more sort of general is the dynamics involved in this kata, and especially the jump. A lot of sports-based training now, you'll see people jumping up and down onto boxes. It's dynamic, explosive movement. And the jump, if you practice it enough, will give you dynamic and explosive power from the hips and the legs, the quads, and the general musculature. So, you know, if you've got to improve your karate, you've got to have sufficient strength in your body to be able to perform the techniques correctly. And this is a way of doing that and increasing your lower body strength by using this jump. And the final point, and this applies to all the katas, is this could be a good introduction to the idea of kata-based sparring. You know, if you start off as a beginner and you get into sparring, it rapidly sort of gets out of control and scrappy and all over the place. So a useful way to get into it is kata-based sparring, where you each know what the attack is and you each know what the potential defences are. But rather than it being a fixed ippon kumite style technique, you can move around a little bit more like sparring, but you still know what the attack is and what the defences are. It's just not so formalised and not so rigid. And there's some great opportunities in Godan for kata-based sparring. So that might be a good way for new students to sort of start thinking about their sparring techniques. So one of the variations we're going to look at is various styles of punching. Kenwa Mabuni, in his writing, he felt very concerned that kata was losing its way. People had got bad interpretations. They weren't understanding the angles properly. And that they were getting rigid ideas of the techniques in the katas. So his concept was, if it shows a gakuzuki punch, then it doesn't have to be an exactly classic gakuzuki. There's variations on gakuzukis where you punch with different parts of the hand. You know, his idea was, well, there's no use trying to do a classic gakuzuki if it won't fit. But if there's a space where you can get a variation of the punch, that's what you need to do. And there's also different ways of striking to have different effects on the body. So if I can borrow Simon, the kata is, we get the block, and then we get a classic gakuzuki, which will have the effect of sending him directly backwards, which is fine because the punch is going horizontally. He will go, as you would expect, laws of physics. But we might want to lift his head, keep him close and lift his head. So in the description, we'll put a link. The former world heavyweight boxing champion, Jack Dempsey, referred to it as the power line. And it's a different way of striking, and we'll use the fist as tatazuki, vertical fist. So in this instance, as the punch comes in, we make the block, but we come upwards, which gives us a different effect on the body. And we'll put a description, you know, he used the punching through the power line in a devastating effect, you know, when he was the world heavyweight champion. The third way is to punch downwards, punching a roshi. And again, we'll put a link to the fist position. But this gives us a distinct collapse, and this leads up to one of the variations of the kata. So as the punch comes in, we get the block. I want it to go down because I want his head here. Because in the kata, we get to this section. Under the chin, hair, we've got him here. Now, as we mentioned during the demonstration, it's a way of practicing both sides of the body. But if I've got him in that position, we've got the punch, I've collapsed him down, I've got his head here. So I've now got control of him and put him into an advantageous position where I can hit him. So you can look at it as practicing both sides of the body, or you can look at it, I've collapsed him, I've taken control of his head, and I put him now where I can deliver a shot. So just a little variation on the punching techniques and how you think about the kata. If I've got him by the hair, wherever the head goes, the body has to follow. So you can then follow it with a strike. So the question is, what happens if the guy's bald? You can put your hand on the top of the head and still do it. But there's a risk that if it's hot and sweaty, you know, your hand might slip. So if he's bald, grab him by the ear, take him down that way. And you know, if somebody's got you by the ear and they're pulling hard, then chances are you're going to comply. And this is very similar to nai hanshi. The section in nai hanshi, when you get these covers, they're not really covers, I don't think. They're more head control. So again, we're progressing from the Pinan Katas towards the more advanced katas. So this is another little stepping stone along the way. So the next section of the kata, you know, people describe it as a juji-uke. But you can also view it as a joint lock. So this section, these can be joint locks and arm locks. So we take a quick look at that. If a grab comes onto the hand, instead of thinking of juji-uke, if you come underneath, you can apply pressure upwards, up, roll him over, and the kata you step through, but we can just come through with hizugari, drive him away. So what's classically a juji-uke, come underneath, finger locks, up, roll it over, push through. So again, just looking at the kata slightly differently, rather than sort of block punch, we've got joint locks, wrist locks, manipulation. Back to this idea of tagumi and grappling. So just a different way of looking at that section. So we'll have a look at this variation on the end section of the kata, where we get these movements. We're going to look at it as a takedown. I'm going to try and link the two sections together. We're going to go for a takedown. Okay, realises what's happening. So then we progress through to the second part of the kata. So as the attack comes in, we get a strike. We hook underneath, round the head, comes down. What we're hoping to do is take him to the floor, but he realises what's happening, stands up. So we come through as it shows in the kata for an arimanagi type technique. So that's the end section of the kata, looking at it from a throwing point of view, rather than purely as a kicking, blocking and punching point of view. So we'll put some links to some of the things that have been referenced in the katas. One of the interesting things is Anko Itosu's 10 principles. Itosu tried to get karate into the Okinawan school system the same way that Jigoro Kano got judo into the Japanese school system. So we come up with these 10 precepts of why it was a good idea to teach karate in school. So we'll put a link to that and some of the other items we've discussed today, so you can go away and do some research of your own.
Okay, so yeah, we've done Godan today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Conclusions from Godan. It's a lot more complex, moving from one direction to another, from one extreme stance to another extreme stance. As obviously there's the jump as well. So, yeah, quite complex. I always feel that it's an intro to Seishan. Yeah. Not technically true, but I get the feel every time I do it. Every time I think of Seishan, I think of obviously nai hanshi, but I also think of Pinan Godan. And when I do Pinan Godan, I automatically think of Seishan. So, and it's good that you start linking one kata with another one, Then it'll feel as though it's gelling together. And that's what it should be when you get to a certain grade. Don't think it's just one item on its own, but all the 5 should come together. So, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed Pinan Godan. So, again, thank you, Sensei Kerimo, and thank you, Simon Sheridan. All right, thank you. Okay, while we were doing this series of Pinans, it reminded me of my time with Takamizawa Sensei. So not only did we do katas the formal direction, but we did Hantai Goa, other direction. So let me just try and demonstrate. It even started, so here, left foot, right foot. So we use Pinan Nidan to start off with. Yeah, I'll just go through it very slowly. So when Toru Takamizawa came out with the first time in Temple, he says, well, we're going to do the kata the other direction. So we started off Pinan Nidan, so everybody went left foot, right foot, and he went, no, 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 no. It's other direction, so you have to go right foot, left. Yeah, he went down into that such detail. So, having done this for many years, even here. Okay, so it was quite amusing on that night watching people going all over the place trying to look at each other, finding out where we've got to go. So he did stick in my mind. So some people say, who knows Pinan Nidan? And I'll be very reluctant to put my hand up, even at the grade that I am. So one way to check is when you get to the end, make sure make sure you can do it backwards. Some katas you'll find virtually impossible to do backwards, especially Pinan Godan. Don't try and do the jump backwards. I'm sure there'll be some people sending us videos trying to do it backwards. I'll be very impressed if you can. So be careful you don't injure yourself. But normal way, Ura, if you can do it backwards, brilliant. Yeah, then you can say, yes, I sort of know Pinan Nidan. Hi. So this concludes the Pinan series. I hope you've enjoyed all of them. And again, they're not sacrosanct, they're just us enjoying ourselves. Just as long as the kata means something to you, because if it means something to you, then your technique will look and it will feel correct, not just like you're doing a dance. So get to know your Pinans, okay? Keep supporting us. Let's have the thumbs up. Don't mind the thumbs down. It's all part of life. And also keep up the communication. We love the communication. And through the communication, we're getting to know more and more friends around the world. So, yeah, thank you. Wesh.